by forcing always something like an outcome, you're also not giving it room for your mind to just like take a break, and sometimes you just need to take a break. You don't need, because what you're trying to do, even when you're trying to fix your anxiety, like reading books, going like doing some other things, eventually what you're trying to do is also like forcing it to go away. And again, the more you can do all the right things. You can meditate, you can like drink tea, you can take um, some vitamins for anxiety, you can try so many things, and you're like 5 years later you still figure out why nothing helps, but you're doing everything and you're very like disciplined with everything. It's because you're trying so hard to force it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bug Mind, where we dive deep into the mind of developers. So today, right before we start, just a very quick announcement. We have a new website. The Bug Mind has a new, fresh website that has been made with the help of the lovely Adam Rikovic, and it's great. It has everything, has all the episodes, all the shorts, and all the resources of mental health things that I've found throughout the years. So before, they used to be a separate repository. Now they're integrated into the website and everything is open source. So you're going to find the link for everything down there. Now, let's jump right into the episode. And let's do that by welcoming the new guest for today, which is a person I was very excited to have on board because they're a much more experienced person in talking about mental health. So welcome, Andrei. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Let's start the way we always do, which is like, can you tell us a bit about like, what do you do in tech?
Yeah, so I'm a senior software developer at Callstack, mainly work in React Native, but yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I've heard of that technology before. I wonder where.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you're not just a developer, though. Like you did have a podcast for a couple of years called The Anxious Developer. So when it comes to mental health, like how did you first become aware of your own mental health? Let's start from there.
Yeah, so I think it started like when I first went to study in Netherlands. I decided to do my university bachelor studies in Netherlands, coming from Moldova, where I was born. And it was a big leap for me because, yeah, no, studying in a different country, not being with your parents, being alone, and I think that's where it started. So I had like a lot of like different feelings. Mostly it was like anxious, like anxiety, loneliness, and different states. But also it's like was a natural process for in our age, like when we go through, we have teenage years, and then we have like early adulthood. So that was my stepping phase into early adulthood. So that's the first time when I start to become aware of like my feelings, I would say, because before I was not really focused on how I feel. You play some Counter Strike here, you like go out with friends, and you don't really know what are you feeling. So yeah, that's when I first started to become more aware, mindful, and it started to bother me because it started to impact my study, my work, and yeah, it was just like a whole nightmare of different emotions. Um, but yeah, at that time I had to like go very deep and try to understand what's happening, where is it coming from, and is there a way I can do something about it? Because I had like intense moments, like super intense moments of anxiety, and I'm not talking like just about stress. Um, it's more about like panic attacks and like having anxiety about like some bodily symptoms, um, like you are afraid that some you have like a very deadly disease or something like that. And it's also I was struggling with money. My parents were supporting me in my university studies, but I was still trying to make some money to on my own to just for living, for paying my apartment, and also eating. So there was a lot of things to figure out at that time, like studying, preparing for exams, figure out if I'm gonna make it, and then making some money on the side so I can pay the apartment and for my daily living. Um, and then I was worried that what if something happens? I'm like so far away from home, like there's no one to take care of me, so I need to take care of myself. Um, So yeah, I went through I would say a long period at that time when I also, I would say, I kind of stepped away from normal activity I was doing. Like I was going with friends before, so I stopped doing that because it just was too much for me. It was very overwhelming, and I had to like focus on myself, like really go deep, and that was like a journey in itself. Yeah.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. I know this is not going to be the topic of today, but I had a question that came to my mind while you were talking. It's like, and I want to compare it with mine about university. Like, did you ever talk with someone like while you were in uni, so with other like people, of your same age? So I would say like probably 19, 20, 21, like they were doing your same courses. Like, was like mental health therapy like a topic that was discussed like in like, I don't know, like the Netherlands university system? Is that something that exists over
So
there?
it does exist. It's just in my
Okay.
university was they didn't have like a specific like assigned psychologist for students.
Okay.
They had it in a different branch on the same university in a different city. And this was like a smaller city and a smaller university, so I think they're just starting out. But
Okay.
I had a teacher that I could like he was coaching me like a mentor, like he as a part of the
Nice.
group of the class. But I also was afraid to speak about this, like because you feel anxious and you feel like it's impacting your studying, so you don't really want to share that because you're afraid like maybe they're gonna see you differently or you're not, they're gonna think you're gonna fail. So anyway, I didn't know
Mm.
that that actually was not a problem. I told my teacher after like I think 1 year when I was like since I started to struggle with like anxiety. I finally told him because I didn't really feel shameful of that anymore. And then he told me like, yeah, you should have told me before, maybe we could like give you some free time from exams because you are having to do. I was literally sometimes coming on the exam and having a panic attack, and then I wouldn't go out, or that was the good thing. I
Mm.
wouldn't flee from, so it would impact my ability, but I wouldn't like just like shut off studying or shut off like work. So that was a very good habit to not run away from. And luckily that taught my brain like to that even if you feel something doesn't mean you need to act on it. So yeah, he later told me that it would be completely fine if you just told me, and then we could like help you in a way.
Okay, that's nice. Yeah, because I had so I did my uni in Italy, and completely by chance, it just so happened that I knew a girl that she was like staying in the same, like, I would say like is the thing similar to like the American college where like you stay in the town, like you don't leave like in a normal apartment, you stay with other students. And just so happens that she has some big life event, and because of that she had a therapist. But like if it wasn't for that specific person sharing with me like this very personal thing, literally no one never was talking about even the concept of mental health. So when I was in uni, it was like completely alien to me. So
Yeah,
it's interesting to know.
I think
Yeah.
like it also because I was maybe coming from a different culture, like from Moldova. Like there's nothing like we really speak about it. Maybe in the last few years this become more popular, and mental health like definitely become something more important. But I would say people are still like out of like they don't really understand what is this, and it's just like your physical body. You need to put time to take care of your physical body. It's the same for mental health, but mental health in where I come from is a lot of time like not really it's overlooked. So
Yeah.
when I came to Netherlands, I didn't know that. I thought it's the same thing, and you should not really speak about it. And I also was very uncomfortable to speak with someone because you don't know if they're gonna make fun of you, like, or you can trust this person. So, and also especially being like in a men's circle, I feel like it's a little bit harder to speak about these things. So yeah, I didn't really feel like sharing at that time, for sure.
Totally. Interesting. Okay. And yeah, hopefully over the years, like even now, before, like between now and when I went to uni, like things have changed even at the Polytechnical. But you know, it's full of engineers or people that want to become engineers. So who knows that?
Yeah.
But yeah, so the keyword for today is actually one that you've mentioned quite a few times already. And it's also part of the title of your podcast, which is, you know, anxiety, which I find it's like probably a thing that both me and you, we have a lot of it. We've tried to figure out many different ways to deal with it over time. You again, yeah, you have a podcast. You discussed about it at length there. You have a good blog post where you kind of like list a lot of the different things that you do throughout the, you know, over time that you've done over time to help you with your anxiety. And I was thinking that maybe we could, you know, dive a bit into that. I don't think, you know, in general, anxiety probably requires a formal introduction. Also, we're not medics, but you know, in general, anxiety is like the fear of the future that you are looking at and is making you very anxious. Again, it's also part of Inside Out too. I think. I think it's a new character. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
haven't,
did.
but oh, okay. Do you think it's well represented there, like anxiety?
I think it's well represented. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I really have to catch up with that movie. I don't know. Maybe my anxiety is preventing me to look at a more visual representation of anxiety. But still, I wanted to maybe, you know, start from your blog post talking a bit about that. What are some of the things that you've done over time? Like you mentioned that you started, you know, having these type of problems during university, so it's been a while now. Like, what are some of the strategies that you've developed so far to deal with it?
Yeah. So a lot of this comes to very personal advice, because
Totally.
the way I see it is like, it's like an, if you go to a nutritionist, he's not gonna give you like one recipe for every patient. You're gonna have a very different approach to every different person, and some things that work for me might not work for others, because simply the reason or the cause issue of anxiety may be simply different. So you might try to fix it in a way, let's say on the surface, but you're not gonna touch the bottom part of it. And some people might not even have a bottom, like some deeply issues that are causing it, and they maybe just have like a surface thing that they need to fix. But because some people give advice to go deep, they're gonna go and try to search for something that is not there. So you have to really take a personal approach. And for me, it was first like I went into a deep place, like in terms of like research. Like I read a lot of books about like mental health, about trauma, about like different states that helped me understand, like, I mean, those books are like hard to read for someone that deals with anxiety, because they're like very scientific. They are written by doctors that have like have done studies in these fields, and they know a lot more than I do. And a lot of topics that they touch are very like scary to read through. But they're
Is
very,
there any specific book that you
yeah.
would say there's one that in particular stands out for you?
Yeah, so there is like Waking Up the Tiger. I think that's what's called the book. It talks about trauma and talks about like just like different patients in different cases. And for someone that deals with anxiety, it's like I just don't want to say them, because I don't think anyone can take anything. They have to read the book. But it's about understanding like where some traumas come from. And for some people, it can be very hard to read that, not because it's like it just like contains any images or anything, but because it's like can trigger you anxiety in those moments. So but this is exactly why you need to do things like to me, what I realize is that the things that cause my fear, that anxiety, is the things that I need to do. Because the more you are trying to run away from the things that make you like afraid, let's say you're very scared to go to a doctor to get a checkup because you think you have something. I mean, you don't have to go now and check up on every symptom, but you also don't have to just stay in home and be afraid of to go to a doctor. You have to like find middle ground, like something in between that. And it's like very hard to give an advice like when should you see a doctor, when should I do this, or what should I do, because you should find that for yourself, and you'd know the answer when you find it. But it's, yeah, for me, I had to go deep and try to research, like, what is anxiety, what is causing it, and what might have been causing it. And I've spent a lot of years actually in that. It was not just like I did my studies and I was fine. So I did a lot of digging, read some books about it. I didn't read a lot, but I read enough to kind of understand this. And then that was the theory part. And then I started practicing. And the practicing was meditations, was exercise. Although exercise I only applied like through my recent years, and I didn't do that at the beginning, which I think that was a mistake. But also it's like very hard to motivate yourself to do when you're at the beginning. But yeah, exercise is like a big thing, and it's a completely different topic. I think like if you're gonna do one thing for your mental health, like out of anything, exercise should be the priority, and shouldn't try to reach like some goals in terms of like outcome. I want to reach like a body, or I want to get out of anxiety because I do exercise. It shouldn't be a goal oriented. It should be more like a practice, just like how you brush your teeth. And there have been numerous studies that show that exercise helps alleviate anxiety and like mental health issues, because like when you have anxiety, it's adrenaline in your system. You have a lot of adrenaline, and if you are staying in your bed, which I was doing, and just like studying in your bed or like working from your bed, that adrenaline is like just rushing through your veins like 24 hours. And you have some ways to stop it, like with meditation. Although with meditation, you have to practice it like very intensely and for many days to have a relief. Well, exercise is a way quicker way, because you are doing a physical activity that alleviates that adrenaline. So that's why exercise is recommended so much by therapists, and it's one of the most important things to do if you deal with any, not just anxiety.
And even just like walking, like even
Yeah,
a 20
exactly.
minutes walk, like the mental health walks, like to not scare anyone off of like, oh, you need to do 2 hours of exercising every day. It can be something small, but absolutely.
And the walking can be sometimes a lot more times more beneficial than intense workouts, because when you're walking, you are also paying attention to the present, and you're one of the practices to constantly be mindful of what's happening, because anxiety is just not being in the present. Mostly you're either stuck in the past worrying about something that happened, or you're stuck in the future where you're worrying something might happen, but you're never in the present. Because if you were in the present, you wouldn't have anxiety and you would not listen to this episode probably. But but the most important thing is like to do some type of exercise. And if you're doing some walking, and especially like if you're not taking your phone with you, or you're trying not to distract yourself, you're paying attention to what's going around you, and you try to like be mindful of what's the weather outside like some people like crossing the street, the wind blowing, so like small sounds. And then you become more aware of like things that are happening outside, because one thing that is very like dangerous for an anxiety sufferer is that they become very in tuned, in a bad way, not in a good way, but very in tune to their body. So they're very big aware of like every small thing that happens in their body. So then they start to freak out, or like they think like, oh, I have a heart attack because my heart is like beating a little bit faster than usual. So you become very afraid of like every movement. So you become very aware of your body internally, but you are not becoming aware of what's happening around you. And yeah, it's like once you try to focus on external things, something that really matters, that's the time it goes away by naturally. And and the most important lesson I learned is that you should never force anything to force to treat anxiety faster, or like to get out from the states you are feeling, because that's what you're basically telling yourself, or subconsciously you're telling yourself, is that I do not accept how I'm feeling. And I mean, it's a good motivation. It's a good start. You're not accepting how you feel, so you want to change something, which is amazing. But also, by forcing always something like an outcome, you're also not giving it room for your mind to just like take a break, and sometimes you just need to take a break. You don't need, because what you're trying to do, even when you're trying to fix your anxiety, like reading books, going like doing some other things, eventually what you're trying to do is also like forcing it to go away. And again, the more you can do all the right things. You can meditate, you can like drink tea, you can take some vitamins for anxiety, you can try so many things, and you're like 5 years later you still figure out why nothing helps, but you're doing everything and you're very like disciplined of everything. It's because you're trying so hard to force it. But once you slow down, when you try to, you're not doing things because you need to, you do things because you want to. That's when it becomes like the journey becomes more interesting, and it's almost like a pleasant journey to take. It's not something you don't want to take. So yeah, not forcing things is one of the most important things I learned.
That's a very nice way of putting it. Also, it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier of, being present in the moment. In a way, if you're running away from the moment because you don't want to feel the way you're feeling, that's also like important to keep in mind. Like it's all about accepting, labeling. It's about being able to tell how you're feeling and accepting that that's okay, to then build on top. Instead, if you keep running away, yeah, I love how you phrase it. I think it's one of the more motivationally charged ways. I don't know how to phrase it. Like it sounds so much like the right thing and the right approach. So I'm very grateful you said it that way. You also brought up meditation. You brought up, eating and drinking things. Is there any specific things that you would recommend to someone if they wanted to try to look into that direction?
Yeah, the most like natural way I see it is to go for very like naturalistic things at the beginning, like something that we know that helps and doesn't create side effects. So like chamomile tea, for example, will, I mean, you have to check some things for like if you're pregnant, some things you cannot, but over than that, it shouldn't cause any issues. Like chamomile tea is like amazing for like just giving your like system a break from the stress in your body. It can really elevate a lot of stuff. Valerian root, it's amazing. Again, over than like if you're pregnant or something, you should look into it. But over than that, it doesn't create any side effects. So there's like very easy to look things that are like herbalistic that will help you a lot, and probably a naturalist or a nutritionist, will help you a lot in figure this out. You can, and depends again on what you're dealing with, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving any prescriptions, but there's could be things that you're really struggling and you may need to look into therapy or like psychiatry even, different cases. But nothing hurts if you can just start with something that's available, and you can do like regularly. Like tea helps a lot. I would say one thing that helped me also is to cut up my caffeine intake. Basically, for a few years I didn't even touch coffee, because it created it just alleviated my heart rate, and also I was very sensitive to caffeine. So and that just not only for coffee, like any energy drinks or like Coca-Cola, anything that has caffeine, and just trying to change it with tea instead and see how you feel. Also, a lot, actually, this is like from the last years I figured out, is that sugar can also alleviate a lot of stress. But again, this comes into like being in tune with your body, not in a bad way where you like freak out, but knowing your body, like what things like trigger different states, how you feel, and what things like help you. And the most important is not necessarily add more things, but cut things that are not working. Because you can add a lot of good things, but while not cutting the bad things, and it's still not gonna help you. So you have to cut first a lot of things, that unlearn even a lot of things that is not working. And to know what is not working, you really have to pay attention to what you're doing. Before I was like playing like games, at night, and then I was wondering why I'm like feeling so stressed and I cannot sleep. It's because you play a game that's like causing your adrenaline to rush, and
Yeah.
then your system is on fire because you're like playing some games. I mean, it could be soothing games, but I was playing some not soothing games. And then you could also like watch some action movies or like horror movies, which again makes your feelings more intense. So at the beginning, it's not like you're never gonna watch any movies again, but at the beginning, try to just become aware of like things that increases your anxiety, and try to just help your body to have a break at the beginning. And then step by step you're gonna reintroduce them, because you don't want to like exclude things out of your life anymore. So you still want to do things you wanted. Maybe you're enjoying going to a theater, friends, or like if you're family, and now you cannot do that because you have like an intense fear of that. So you want to slowly introduce them back. So yeah.
That's also very good. That's very nice. I was thinking about, action movies and playing video games at night, which is it's so frustrating because you're working throughout the day and then you're like, oh, I can finally do something for myself in the evening, and then you end up doing something that makes you even more awake. Like yeah, I think a lot of people can probably see themselves in like what you were saying of like playing video games that make you make your heart boil, and like I wonder why I cannot go to sleep 10 minutes after finishing my last match. But like, oh, I wonder why.
I
Yeah,
think
but
also,
I
also for me, what helped is that um, cutting the phone time a few hours before sleep, and also when you wake up, you don't go right away to phone, which sounds maybe simple, but it's very hard to implement. And in no way
yeah,
I'm like good at this. I still like do it a lot wrong, but um, because at the moment I don't need like so much. I'm not following so many of this, because in a way I can say that I overcame a lot of the struggles I was going through before. Yeah, good ending, happy ending. But when I was going through the anxiety journey, like figure out that cutting a lot of my phone and a lot of distractions and addictions that going constantly on your phone and checking, um, that's what's causing to. So I mean, there's like so many things. We're living in a technology focused world, so everything is trying to grab your attention, and it does that by creating some type of anxiety in your system, because when you're relaxed you're not likely to buy something or engage into something, so it causes something into you to be more engaged. So if you do this like before sleep right away, or when you just wake up, basically you're telling your body like, just go right back at where we started yesterday. You're not giving it any break, from
yeah,
all this. So try to replace it with a book, or it could be even like an audio book, something that's like for me, spirituality was a big thing, and I was reading like a lot of Buddhist books at the time, and it was very very relaxing, but also a lot of insightful, because it had like so many wise things, not directly related to anxiety, but you could really apply them in your life. So yeah, but spirituality is like a different topic, but I think
totally
it's a very important one. Yeah.
nice. And yes, I totally agree about trying to create the separation between like when you're going to sleep and your phone. Like for that reason, like literally in our house, what we have is like the bedroom is a phone free zone. Like you literally don't even bring the damn thing into there. So that like literally, if it's there, because if you have it, you're gonna use it. So might as well like keep it away. And that's all great. There's one last thing I wanted to ask you, maybe in a bit of a greedy way, I guess. Like, so one of the things I've always struggled with is being consistent with meditation. I tried a bunch of apps, and I tried at different times of day to do it, but I couldn't figure out a way that would gel with me. Do you have any specific forms of meditation that you would recommend to someone that would try to create like a good routine? Is there like a time in the day that you think it works better? Like, what's your experience in like please help me out, basically.
Like I think to start with with meditations, you can. There's like a few good apps like Headspace, and I think Waking Up is another one. But I would say,
Waking up.
yeah, there's an app by
Okay.
Sam Harris. Created an app, and I think he's also has a lot of theory and like more deep practices. But I would say like you can easily start with something just like 1 minute meditation, because meditation usually it's like you have to do 10 minutes or 20 minutes, and it can take a lot of time, and then it might be a struggle to keep on track with that. So now you can start with something like super simple, like a non-guided meditation where you just like focus on your breath, or like you're just in silence for 1 minute, and that's it. And you can just do it every day. So something that's very easy to commit with. 1 minute, out of 24 hours, not gonna. You have time for that.
Yeah.
So, and then if you want to go more deep, like nowadays, what I do is I do like kind of stretch meditation, something that wakes up my body in the morning. So it's not just a meditation, but also a stretch. And I find that the mind-body connection is very good, and my body is activated in the morning, so I don't go right away to work with like a very tense body. So I can and it takes just 10 minutes, or I think it's even 7 minutes. So it's not
That's cool.
so much where it's like hard to commit to, but the physical effects of it and the mental like helps me to just start the day, and I just do it every day. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. Okay, yeah, mixing it with something. I guess it's kind of like with yoga, probably like
Yeah,
something like that.
it's
Okay,
called
nice.
the Kundalini meditation, basically.
Interesting. Okay, awesome. That's great. Thank you. There's one more aspect that I wanted to touch a bit on about some of the things you mentioned. You mentioned it a couple of times more towards the start of this part of the conversation when you said basically, sometimes you need to dive deeper. You need to go into the things you maybe not want to look into. You need to look into the roots, basically. You need to go at the root of the problems. Why do you have all the anxiety and everything? Of course, it's always very personal, and it's going to depend widely for a lot of people. For me, my anxiety had deep roots, definitely. I have been talking with a therapist for 7 years now, over 7 years, and I think I've got pretty decent insight into those roots. But like, I was wondering how, if you had this experience like of tackling your roots, like how is that experience being for you?
Yeah, so like I said, I had to go deep into like figure out where this anxiety began, and I also did therapy work, and I encourage therapy work to to people that can afford it. It's a good thing, and it can help you to just have a different perspective, because a lot of time you're just stuck in your own way of seeing things, and sometimes you need to have a professional that helps you, not tells you how to see it, but helps you figure out yourself how to see it. That's the best like therapy you can have, is when someone is helping you, uh, instead of like just telling you what to do or like how to do it. Um, and for me, I had to go deep. I found something, and then I thought I found something, but I didn't, and I was like in a constant like battle with myself, figuring out if this is it or is this not, and then trying to understand how to, okay, now I think I figured this out, so this is the cause of it, all of this is cause of this, and then how do I fix it? And um, then trying to spend time to understand like how to fix it. Maybe there's some things you need to do, like maybe forgive yourself for something you did, or for other people that's something they did, or maybe they hurt you in a way. So, but there is a point where you have to leave that, because it's also dangerous if you're stuck too much into that. Now you're just stuck in the past, and all you're doing, you're still not in the present, because you're just trying to figure out something in the past that happened. Because it's good to understand, because you have the theory, you understand why, but now you need to put in the work on fixing it. And you cannot do that by always digging in your past and opening the books. And sometimes actually a lot of times it's been talked about it, that it can hurt more, like in therapy, for example, it can hurt more the patient by constantly talking about the problems, even if they already found the problem, by constantly opening the book and, again and again and again, it might not help you so much. It may actually make it worse if you constantly talk about the problems. Because when you talk about your problems, you're focusing on yourself. And that's selfish in a way. What helps a lot of times is focus, like I said, focus on something else. If you can help on can focus on, the weather outside, the world outside you, because there's a lot of things happening outside of your control. It helps a lot of times. And if you can even focus on why a lot of people, when they have kids, a lot of problems that they had start to go away, because now they're not so focused on internally on themselves. They're focused on someone else. So if you can try to do volunteering or something where you do something good for other people, now you start to stop obsessing with your problems or your issues. So you try to move into something that, we have like a short life, we're not here like living in infinite life. So how
For
much,
now.
yeah. So how much time are we gonna spend it on like us, and then how much time we can spend it on other people, So it's great to go deep. That's how you should start. But if you don't find something, or you think you found, then you need to figure out how to kind of accept it and put it in the past and move forward, because there's no reason to go back. And unfortunately, it's very hard to find a good therapist from my experience. Not in a way to say that, therapy is not helping, it's working, it's helping. But if you find a therapist that's just going to affirm your problems and always going to try to dig your problems, you're just stuck in that mindset of always digging, always digging. And a good therapist sometimes will not tell you like always things you want to hear, but sometimes will tell you some, hard to hear things, but those are like super essential to understand that, maybe something is, because at the beginning I had moments when the therapist will tell me things that kind of hurt. And I was like, oh, this is not the right therapist because I'm not making the connection or something. And he didn't say in a way to offend me or anything. He just said some facts that maybe internally I didn't want to hear. So, but, and the first reaction, you want to defend yourself. And it's like, no, it's not like this, like that. But then you have time to think about it. And with like time, I mean, like can take weeks, months, even years. And then you realize that, maybe one of the most important things I had to realize from my therapy is that, not in a harsh way to me, but it's like I'm not the smartest person, and I'm not also, always seeing the future. Because before I was thinking, oh, I know what's happening. I know what's happening with this person. I know what's happening with me. I know what's happening around me. It's like I figure out everything out. I know why is this. And what the problem with that is that you are, again, thinking you'll figure it all out. And the problem with that is that if you have an issue, it's very hard someone else to get you out from that state and also convince you otherwise, that maybe the problem is different, maybe it's not this. So some good therapists will tell you some, hard reality or some facts that needs to wake you up. And luckily I had therapists like that helped me to get out of this like victimization and always like thinking, oh, it's everyone around me, it's this person, it's that person. And then look, maybe it's me the problem, but maybe I have to change something about myself that I'm not seeing. So yeah, therapy is great, but make sure you find a therapist that it's a professional, know what they're doing, and help you direct in a way that can help you. And if you see that you don't feel better, if you just feel better when you talk with the therapist, but you don't feel better after the fact, and you do this for many, many, many times, maybe it's something you need to change, because it may help you in the moment because you have a conversation and this goes out, but that's short term. You need to, long term, it needs to help you. It needs to give you like a guide. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like how a lot of times throughout this conversation, what kept coming back is this idea of like, it takes time. It's a journey. So yeah, give yourself time, but at the same, also make sure that you're putting yourself on the right rails, and you have it's totally fine to change your therapist. Maybe this is something that some people need to hear. Like, even if you've been stuck with a therapist for like a year, if you feel like, oh no, the cost sunk fallacy is kind of like a big thing of like, oh, I'm already invested into this thing, I don't want to change. But yes, with therapy, you really want to make sure that you're with someone that is helping you grow over time, for
and
sure.
and
And
and I changed my therapist like many times. And what you find is that actually therapists are like stopping from having a therapist, like finishing having sessions with a therapist. That's the end goal, basically, in a way. Like, you don't want to depend on this person, on your lifetime. And I had a therapist that said to me, like if you want to, finish our therapy, I'm like, that makes me happy. I think I did what I came here to do, because you don't want to
oh,
be
that's nice.
you don't want to be stuck, with someone that it's always you need the reassurance, or you always go back for like saying something that maybe you don't confront yourself for. So anyway, you're not dependent on someone constantly. And a good therapist will knows that, and it will not try to to pull a new session from you every time. It will tell you that our goal here is to help you, and if I can help you enough, that's good.
That's great. And yes, I hope that more people will be like, maybe think about their relationship with the therapist and like, is it helping me? But yes, absolutely. And I also like this is something that came up also in our previous episode with Kitse towards the end, like this idea of like, yes, understand your problem, but also like ask yourself like, what are you gonna do about it? Like, try to put yourself in a mindset of like looking at what you're doing now about it. Like, literally just like, don't be stuck in the past, but like try to be proactive about it. And I think that's very, very important. But in general, like looking at what we're going to do about it now, if there's one key learning, like I think you mentioned so many interesting things, like so many things that people can take out of this conversation. I think it's going to be very hard. But like, if there is like one key learning that you would want people to take out of this conversation and like, take with them to make, their relationship with anxiety better, what would it be?
So actually, I haven't started to fix my anxiety until I figured this part of the problem. Like, so the figuring out part was that I was doing a lot of meditations. I was doing a lot of like different things: therapy, meditations, spirituality, cutting things that don't work, adding things that work. So I was doing all that for many years, and I was doing, like I said, I was doing particularly because I was trying to, fix my anxiety, get rid of this. It's like, in a way, push it very hard, like force it out. And I thought the more I do, the more the more disciplined I am, the faster it will go. And especially that was very prominent with panic attacks, because I would have a lot of panic attacks, and I'll do even more things that will help me with panic attacks, but they will not go away. They'll sometimes even become more, and then I'll get frustrated why they're still here. I do so much more than I used to, and I just have more of them. So what in that moment, like, it came with experience, and I think you have to go through this. It's not like you're at the beginning of your journey, you realize this and you're done. You cannot cut a shortcut through it. You have to go through all of from A to Z. But a stepping stone that was in my healing journey was that once I realized that it's fine to not do anything about it. It's like, I don't have to do anything about it. And what happened, not in a way, again, not to like, to be lazy or just like, it's fine, I have anxiety, whatever, I'll live with it. But in a way, and this comes to acceptance, like, but it's very hard to explain what acceptance is, because to different people they can think, oh, acceptance means, oh, I accept my anxiety, but it's not going away. Well, that's not acceptance. Acceptance is when you accept that it might not go away and you're completely fine with it. And the interesting thing is what happens is that once you accept something, that's the time, but you really accept it, like not in a way to fake you, because you're not going to fake your subconscious mind. You can say it, you can say it out loud, and you might think you may lie to someone else, but internally you still know that you're not accepting what you are having. So, and accepting comes with like a lot of I would say like putting in the time and trying to figure out what you're trying to accept and why. But once you accept in a way where you say that, you know what, I don't have to do all these things because I accept it how it is. So I had to cut down a lot of my meditation. I had to cut down a lot of things. And miraculously, once I start doing less of what I started doing, my anxiety started to go way down. Like panic attacks started to disappear, anxiety become way less, stress went away. It's because I stopped like doing so many things and being worried that if I don't do, I had like a problem. If I don't do my meditation in the morning, I'm gonna be anxious the whole day because I didn't do this thing. And what that creates more anxiety. So again, I started to cut things out from my life that I started to add at the beginning and started to do them because I enjoy it and I like doing them, not because I need to do them. So you have to, at one moment in your healing journey, realize that you have to now think about how can I slow down, because you've been running so fast and so much for the last few years. And how can I slow down? And another thing was that I was always trying to be where I was before anxiety. Like I want to be right at the point before that happened, and how can I be there? So that was also like super, like it's a roadblock because you're trying to go somewhere where you're not going to ever be. And not necessarily in a bad way that you're not going to escape anxiety forever, but you're never going to be in that place where you've been because you had different, environment, different information, different like things. So you're not going to be there anymore. So you don't need to constantly battle yourself to, I want to go there where I was before panic attacks, before anxiety. My life was so much better. And this is like something that you cannot get over. Like you constantly trying to dig in the past. So once I stopped like wanting to go back to that state came to me in a way. Like I started to feel more naturally, more relaxed, more, So a lot of things helped. And also, it's also like a lie because you were before, maybe you think you're not stressed or you didn't have panic attacks or something. And maybe, you are feeling better, but maybe you're just not aware of how you're feeling. And the problem became when you start to become aware. So it doesn't mean necessarily you're like in such a great place before. It could be that you're still like struggling, but you didn't know you're struggling. And now you just became aware that you're struggling. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, and also your mind is made in such a way that your memory tries to erase the bad things.
Yeah.
So double down on that. And I love that acceptance plays such a profound role in making the journey better. I absolutely love that. And this has been a great conversation with you, Andrei. I think I've learned a lot for myself. I hope that other people can take interesting things out of it as well. You're going to find all the links to Andrei down there, of course, in the box. And Andrei, I hope that you will receive as much gratitude from other people as I have for you right now, for all the things you've done in this space. Thank you for the podcast. Thank you for the blog post. Thank you for being here. I'll talk to you soon. Yeah. Take care.
Thank you very much for having me, and good luck to everyone who is going through this journey. It may be a hard journey to go through, but at the end, it's a beautiful journey that you're going to learn a lot and you're going to have lessons that you didn't have before. So try to embrace it. It's a beautiful thing.